And welcome back to Super Hostile Online. This is episode 8. And this episode I am going to be talking about basic etiquette on SHO, as well as survival tips. So first off, basic etiquette. What not to do, essentially. Number 1, in common areas like Valgard City, where we are now, as well as the outposts, such as Camp Apex, Eastwatch, and Dumathoin, don't place blocks. Number 1, because you can't break them and pick them back up. The mining fatigue makes it just about impossible to pick stuff up, or to break blocks. Which is a good thing, because it prevents horrible griefing, like what happened at the Davion outposts before Vechs incorporated mining fatigue into the areas surrounding them, as well as the areas themselves. Which was kind of a sad thing that he had to do, because it essentially said that Vechs had basically overestimated the integrity of those who play here, which is a sad thing. It's unfortunate it had to be done. It's unfortunate those who were responsible couldn't be trusted to not be impulsive and grief whole outposts like they did. But, yeah. So anyways, the opposite of griefing, placing stuff down. I'm not sure if this stuff is supposed to be here. It doesn't look too out of place, except for the fence, as well as the rail around here, particularly the powered rail. Just don't place blocks in common areas like this. Just don't do it. It's essentially littering in Minecraft. It's a basic no-no. So, for one, it just looks bad. Like, for example, whoa, a little bit of lag there. Out on the walkways here, like right on the walkway towards the city gates, there were just these random birch slabs placed on the road. And at some point, one person even went out of the way to basically pillar up, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 birch slabs on top of each other. And that just looks, bluntly put, crappy. So, yeah, just don't do it. If you really don't need it, just toss it, drop it. Of course, eventually the game will take care of it and despawn it. Or if you just don't want it on you, just leave it behind in a chest. Drop it off in a chest or in an ender chest in case you really do want to keep it, or think you should hold on to it. Or, of course, dispose of it right here. That's what the scrapyards here are for. Now, as much as it may feel like it takes a little while to get to places sometimes, all I'm asking is just to have some patience. That, or just toss it over the edge. You know, just drop it on the ground. Or preferably into the void, or areas where it'll be gone for good, as quickly as possible. But, okay, so that aside, let's head to Eastern Commons, where I will get to another basic rule, which essentially consists of, well, what I like to call a first engagement rule. Now, this has nothing to do with marriage, but it's more concerning engaging in combat with monsters. So, specifically, when you've killed a monster and it drops its loot, you are entitled to the loot that it drops. So let's kill this zombie and I'll show you real quick. Okay, this 1 XP bottle. Just for this one particular instance. Let's say I'm another person. And I see that the loot's been dropped by the monster, killed by another player who's there, ready to collect the loot. And you walk through it anyway. Don't do that. That is another basic no-no. If you do, just give it back to the player. Let's imagine there's somebody there. And also, when it comes to, like, say, this person over here, because they're the one who initially engages with the monster, they are the ones entitled to that loot that was dropped. So I hope that's clear. I made that clear enough anyway. So in case you do pick it up, whoa, just give it back. Especially if you know exactly what was dropped. Now, obviously, the temptation to pick up loot is always there, but do your best to resist that. Whoa. Okay. Now, because this guy's basically kind of first scrambling for loot here, he's not interested in it. So, in case the person does want to pick it up, generally stay out of the way and go about your business, and just go take on other mobs. It's pretty simple, really. So that aside, on to when players die. Now, unless the person has asked you to pick up their stuff for them to eventually recover, or whether or not they just give it away and say, I don't really need it, you can take it. Now, unless they don't say that, just leave it alone. Now, what is an okay thing to do, what's a perfectly okay thing to do, is to pick it up with the intent to give it back to the person when they come back, and let them know that you did, so they know who to go to. What you don't do is blatantly grab their loot for yourself. Again, that's just common courtesy. Besides that, I guess now we can move on to basic combat. So monsters, like zombies, are pretty easy. You generally want to target them. Generally want to target zombies, especially when you're first starting off. Now creepers, I guess, would come second. But of course, what you always want to be careful for is because we are in hard difficulty, they will take you out. They could take you out pretty easily if you're not careful. If anything, caution is your best friend on Super Hostile Online. Whether or not you're just starting, or you've been playing for a little while, or a long while, regardless of your experience. Now, not to say it's never a good idea to be risky on occasion. What's generally a risky thing to do is to take on dungeons. Say our last episode, episode 7, going into the Rift alone. Generally not a good idea. Because it's what's a fairly big, fairly emphasized thing here on SHO is working with others to conquer dungeons, which is a great thing. It's kind of a double-edged sword, really. For one, it encourages teamwork, which is a great thing. On the other hand, if you're more of a lone wolf and like to do things yourself, those dungeons are not going to be for you. Especially with the combat changes in 1.9. Especially for those who are not used to that. So, I guess one basic tip for survival would be, as soon as you can, get a shield. They do last a particularly long time, depending on how careful you are. And they can be the difference between life and death if you're in a tough situation. Of course, they're especially handy against skeletons. Because, of course, skeletons being now as harder as they are now to deal with, considering how much quicker they are, the strafing that they do, judging on how close they are to you. So, yeah, that's basically that. I think I've already touched on this before. Going after witches is rewarding, assuming you take it on wisely. That's because witches by default here generally drop much better loot, such as iron swords, gold pickaxes, which doesn't sound great, but considering considering this is super hostile online, it's not too bad. As well as golden apples, instant health potions, also tipped arrows, particularly poison 2, weakness 2, and instant damage. Might also be instant damage too. As well as what else? Mushroom stew, which has decent saturation. And that's pretty much it. It's concerning what you usually get from mobs, from the run-of-the-mill zombies, skeletons, creepers, spiders. It's generally a lot better. Now, custom mobs, like you might have already seen here, some of them named. Custom mobs that you would find in dungeons like the Rift. I think those have custom drops of their own. I'm not entirely sure because I haven't been able to get that far into one. The last dungeon raid that my guild did, I wasn't able to make it because it was just too late in the day. But that aside, next tips. So if you generally want to get a lot of loot in a short amount of time, both grinding as well as looting just after sunrise is pretty helpful, because of course mobs like skeletons and zombies will burn and eventually die and drop their loot. So right around here, this stretch of land here is a pretty good place to go to during just after sunrise to pick up drops by burned undead mobs. Mostly because it's a lot of flat land, and a lot of it is generally exposed to the sun once it comes up. Unlike, say, that that huge overhang by Eastern Commons, or that overhang over there for that matter, where stuff can still persist. Oh, okay, you know what? Alright, so also witches themselves. You generally don't want to take on a witch just in melee style. You're a lot better off just shooting it down with a bow. Especially if there's other stuff around to cause trouble. So, same case with skeletons. If you can take it out with a bow, you've got plenty of arrows to spare. Your best bet is just to take it out with a bow. And generally deal with mobs like spiders, zombies, and creepers via melee. Slimes too, for that matter. Okay, yeah, so right around here. Now, the sun's been up for already a little while now. But as you see, just what I was talking about here. A lot of loot being left around on the ground from either burnt or killed mobs. Yeah, this is just about one of the only overhangs along the stretch of land here that's dark enough for mobs to persist. So anyways, let's give you an example of how to deal with skeletons. If he doesn't see you, where do you go? Did you? Oh, you know what? He might have died actually. He strafed into the sunlight. Yeah. That's one way to go. And again, if you don't have a shield especially, and you have the option to take it out via range with a bow, that's generally the best way to go. Also the safest way to go, I should say specifically. It looks like that's just about it for drops around here. So, moving onward, of course, grinders. Grinders are also, of course, particularly helpful with gathering up resources, particularly currency, XP, and gold nuggets. And besides that, fishing, although probably not as efficient as grinding, can be pretty helpful. Now, you can't get stuff like really, really good bows, such as those with, power 4, or even power 3, as well as mending books, or items with mending, such as fishing rods and bows. Those options, they're no longer, you can't get them anymore. That was actually recently that Vechs modded, or not modded, nerfed fishing drops. Or fishing loot, I guess. But anyways. Also, it's a good way to get food. And on occasion, you will get a bunch of items. I've been able to get like 6 cooked fish, as well as logs, even flowers, in case you need dye. In case you want free dye. The option is there to buy dye from a shop back at Valgard City. As well as, what else? Well, I guess other fishing rods. I think enchantment books are out of the question, so don't expect to grab that from fishing. And, yeah, I think I pretty much covered that. So, at the time that I'm recording this is just before an impending update that Vechs is going to be doing on the server. He's going to be taking the time on Mondays to fiddle with the world file. And, yeah, so keep an eye out for update study posts on his Patreon page. In case you don't know the site, I'll leave the link down in the description. so you can get to the page. And, so... Oh, one thing to bring up before I end off the episode. I am considering selling my plot that I bought. Only reason being is because what Vechs is coming out with, presumably in the next update, that we assume he's going to be doing very soon today, at some point, is including or adding apartment-style plots. Now, whether or not there's sort of like a rental system involved where you have to pay once in a while is still yet to be determined, I think. But what's offered in those apartments is actually pretty valuable. He showed a picture of what it looks like inside one on his Twitter. And it looks pretty valuable. It includes a chest, a couple of chests, a couple of double chests, as well as a furnace, crafting table. Not sure about enter chest, don't remember. But also a bed too, so a place to set your spawn right from the get-go when you buy it. So, yeah, that's pretty much going to cover it. Let me know what you think about that idea. Whether or not I should stick with my igloo plot, or should I sell it? Maybe for like a gold block, at least. And look into buying an apartment-style plot. So anyways, yeah, let me know about that in the comments. I will see you next time in episode 9 of Super Hostile Online. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you next time.